evening to you and welcome to tonight's edition of The Police and You. Today, of course, is the 23rd in the month of November. As we say, welcome down to the program. And right now, of course, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you, I would say definitely the long-awaited. I've been trying to get her to be on this program for a while now, but finally she is here. This is the commander of Regional Division 2. And if I am not mistaken, that's Pataro Supernam?
Yes, it is.
All right. Pataro Supernam. Finally, I've got with me Woman Superintendent Denise Griffith, who is the commander of Regional Division 2. Good night and welcome to The Police and You.
A pleasant good evening and thank you for having me.
So, let me just start off first off. How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored.
And how was the travel from Regional Division 2 to Georgetown?
It was exciting. You know, I was so excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, so for the benefit of those persons, usually when we talk about our regions, they hear, especially people who live on the coast, they hear, well, all right, region one is Barima Winey, and then, they don't have an idea definitely of it or what. So if it is, you can tell us. What are your boundaries for your regional division? And whilst at it, maybe you could talk a little bit about how many stations and outposts you've got to man that area.
Okay, my division is Division number 2. That's Pamon Supernam. It's bordered to the north by the Atlantic, to the south by Cayuni Mazzaroni, to the east, West Amara Esquiva Island, and to the north, we have the Barimi Winey, that's way up to the riverfront, joining into almost in Regional Division number 2, we have 4 stations. And Regina, which is the headquarters. You have Charity, you have Aurora, and you have Soddy Police Station.
Any outposts?
No, the region doesn't have any outposts at this moment. 2 outposts, one on the Naming Sandpits and one in Lima Sands.
All right. So, of course, for those of you who are joining us right now, remember we are live on 102.5 FM, which is the Voice of Guyana, and streaming on the Voice of Guyana's Facebook page at NCN Guyana, as well as we are streaming live on the Ghana Police Force's Facebook and YouTube pages where you can follow the conversation. If you've got a question, you've got a message for the commander that is specific to the region that she controls, then you can send that message to that question that is, to 6320147. That's 6320147. Or you can call us live in studio in 226-4762. Commander, as we continue, one of the things that I ask all commanders and leaders when they get here, how effective do you believe is the police in your region? And more specifically as it relates to the staffing that you have. It's a wide area that you've just told us about, so you have to be able to command. Tell us about that.
Well, in my region, I'm definitely on the staff. I've been making a lot of pledges, appealing since I got there. And as other regions, I know that within the entire Ghana Police Force, there's a shortage of ranks. But I would say that my region is extremely short. We're short approximately by roughly 50 persons. I would say 50 ranks. And I'm saying ranks, taking it from officer to constable, if we take it in a declining phase.
So you need more people?
Yes, definitely.
Even though most people seem to think that, okay, well, all right. Region 2 has to curb, man. No, they just got this one road from is to charity, and they think that's it, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
one way in,
main
one way
road,
out.
One main road, but there are other little villages and they have a lot of crossroads. For instance, we have going into a marina settlement we call Mashabo. There is a entrance where you go that would be going west, and there is a backland there that can take you from Mashabo. That before you get into Mashabo itself, there's a land there where you can go to. If someone want to get you from the police, they can use that entrance and go all the way to Supernam using the backlands, and likewise all the way to Charity using that backland. So it's not as easy.
So they don't
as
have to
people-
come to the main road.
Definitely not. So it's not as easy as people would think, you know. And I was fortunate because I went there, you know, I went to police the area to see, you know, possible escape routes when things are happening on the front. And that is what I can say to you without a shadow of a doubt.
And evidently, so based on also bordering regions, do you find that maybe there's a possibility that persons, especially if it is that they may, you know, commit criminal acts and they seek to flee from one jurisdiction to the other, that they can actually, you know, use your region as a crossing or escape route? Is that possible?
Yes, it is possible. For instance, people can use the same Supernam. You can get from there to Region 3. And you also can use a Charity route and get to Region 1. You can also use that route and get to Bokal, which now falls under the ambit of Region Division 3. And also persons can use, recently I learned, even the Charity River coming through the river from Barimi winding into Pomeroon, into Georgetown using the river canal.
And this is in the river.
Just use the river.
Oh.
Without even getting on the land. Just use the river and all the way to Georgetown.
So there's need for even policing the riverine areas.
Yes, well, we do have in the Charity area, we do have the police boat that is being manned by a sergeant who patrol that area. And also in the Supernam Creek area, we have also police boat that is being supervised by a subordinate officer. So they will do river patrol from time to time, apart from the Coast Guard.
And apart from some of the manpower challenges that you made mention of in your region, what are some of the other, you would say, challenges that would prevent you from effectively policing that region?
From my understanding,
Or as hindrances?
my observation, the relationship with the police, and I'm going to be very frank, is not 90% with the public. A lot of distrust because maybe different reasons, some act of dishonesty on part of some of the police, alleged corrupt involvement. But what I've been doing since I got there, I've been speaking from time to time with members of the public and assure them, you know, that, you know, they can help us. When I say it at all levels, even at the regional level when I attend meetings, because corruption involves a giver and a taker, and if the police demands, then you have the right to make a report. If you're offering the policeman, you know, not to be prosecuted, then it's an offer and an acceptance. And so, you know, I would say to them at different levels. So if you want us to work together, then members of the public also has to cease in getting the police involved in the act of corruption. That is one of the challenges, but I can tell you that it has been minimized a lot. It is less than actually when I got to that region. I can say it with no apology. And as recent as yesterday, I find a lot of members of the public, they would call me directly and they would say certain things, and, you know, I would cause ranks to go out in certain areas. Ranks that I would choose. I cannot send any and every rank there.
So you've got that situation kind of going. Now, if we were to turn our attention, it's just about 21 hours 23. Turn our attention a little bit. One of the things we noticed, and the team from CCU paid a visit to the region even before you were there, early in the year. and we saw the spanking new office that is being set up. And it's going to be a model in terms of what the regional offices, headquarters are going to be around the country. Tell us about how that is coming. Is it opened as yet? And what is expected to be housed there?
It is not open officially as yet. That headquarters is based in Regina. Presently, we have the immigration department. They're operating out of that area. Immigration is expected to take, obviously, divisional commander, the deputy, the registry, the operations room, some key areas, CID, some key areas would be used in that area. A child-friendly environment. We have domestic violence area, where persons can feel free. Even children who may commit offenses, you would have an area set aside that you can take them there and you can feel relaxed. It's a very modern facility, I would say.
I think one of the things that struck us is the fact that when it comes to identifying perpetrators,
and it's a far more safer way of doing it. But it's not operational, as I said, because we are waiting the official opening, which should be anytime soon.
All right. Now, if we turn our attention to the issue of crime, obviously, which is what police would have to attend to often, what would you say are the most prevalent criminal acts in the area of Regional Division 2?
Rape. As we speak, we have an increase of rape like 300%. Now, 300% might sound alarming, but it simply means that last year you might have had 1, and this year you might have 3 or 4. That, to my mind, on examination come because of the age factor. With the new dispensation where a child cannot give consent unless she attains the age of 16. The other thing is what constitutes rape. The definition is no longer where we had the forceful entry of a male on a female, but now it's more or less a touching. It involves other areas, and so there's one broad umbrella, and so that is what would cause it to rise. You have, like, as I said, the age factor, and what I find is that most of the cases, the females would be involved, and then when somebody get the knowledge, because of the statutory period or the statutory age limit, that is 16. Where from 16 you can give consent. Once you're below that, it's rape. So even if you say yes, it's still no because you're protected by statute. And because of that, that is what caused the increase. Apart from that, we've had an increase in robbery under arms. And I said again, the robbery might seem alarming, but it might be, for instance, last year you might have had 1 and this year you have 2. So when you say I have an increase of 100%, I say, wow, what really happening in Region 2? But it might just be another 1. Instead of 1, you get 2. Even though 1x is too much for us. Be that as it may, as recent as today, we have a decrease in certain areas. Like, for instance, robbery, we have a decrease by 50%. Our clear-up rate is actually 50%. Court rate 50 increase in all those areas. So even though things are happening, we still have a lot of successes. And as I said, I want to believe, because we were out of a vehicle for some time in the region, that gave a little spike, because persons were aware that there are no vehicles, and they target specific areas, for instance, like the Lima Sands area and the Undername Sandpit. Undername Sandpit is one of the troubling areas in Region 2. Right? It's very wide. It's a new scheme that is developing there, and so it takes, a time to get there. You have to actually mobilize. To get there. It is not as easy as people would think. The other thing is some persons in the area, out of fear, would not want to say anything because they're living there, and everybody knows somebody. So that is it for crime.
All right. So you've got that kind of situation where you call it, let's say, maybe familiarity breeds contempt.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that, there may be some of the factors like mistrust of police.
Yes.
You say that those are some of the contributing factors, especially when it comes to that area, and being able to police it. And maybe what kind of message would you want to send to those residents there and being able to address and to tackle that situation?
Well, yes. First, let me begin by saying that yes, I strongly believe because of the lack of confidence in some of the police officers, because when something happened, by the time the patrol to go out to effect an arrest, the perpetrator is alerted. And so, some persons, my mind, is of the view that it doesn't make sense. But since I'm there, I can tell you I've been getting a lot of support from members of the public. I've been getting a lot of cooperation. We had a robbery, I don't know if you recall, along Supernam. And actually, the members of the public caught the first perpetrator. Then they called me, said, Commander, we have this guy. And then they had some information where the second and third went. And we sent the patrol, the police went with them, circled the area. We were able to get the second. And then the members of the public caught the third and handed him over to the police. So I'm of the view that, they have a little bit more confidence in the police, even though they wouldn't have 100%, because police would call me directly. They would say, Commander X, Y, or Z. Or they would come and they would say, I'm here to see you because, I've been hearing that, you're approachable, we can talk to you, and, they feel open. Or they would even call and say, well, you need to look at this area, you need to look at that area, you need to look at this policeman, you need to look at that policewoman. So I don't think the extent that it was before it is at that level now. I think we have a better relationship, even though it is not where I want, but I think it has improved.
I want to back up a little bit and put some context to that particular situation where you talked about that collaboration with the citizens in being able to bring purpose to justice there. Because what would have happened is that situation would have happened basically mere months on the heels of the shooting death of a businessman in the community, and you would have had unrest and a standoff, so to speak, between civilians and the police.
Yes.
No, it must have been a very trying time for you.
Yes.
Evidently, some repairing of relations had to have been done, which you evidently succeeded in, because in a mere, I think it was 6 weeks after, where that incident that you just mentioned occurred, where the citizens themselves did the citizens arrest and called on the police
Yes.
to take over. What were some of the intervention tactics that you worked on, given that kind of tenseness that happened in that region?
Well, let me say, during that unrest, I'm a very much God-fearing woman, and I say it everywhere I go, I'm proud of the God in whom I serve, and I know it had to be the work of God at that unrest. And even there, I don't know if you recall, even there I was speaking to the resident. I tried pleading with them. Other persons had different views, but I kept saying we need to be calm. We need not to push anything. We need to be calm. I recall one time the regional chairman called me. She said, Commander, we need to do something. And I said, just give me some time. And, I keep speaking with the persons. And even after then, I would have visited the area. Even I promised to go to that area, which once I'm there, I would visit the area. When the situation is not fully calm as I want it to be, because the residents are still listening and hoping to hear what is going to be the outcome. I don't know if you saw the Facebook today, where I think Attorney at Law, Mr. Nigel Hughes, would have made certain comment saying he's looking to see what the police is going to do by this month end, because they're of the view that time has elapsed. And so that is a major concern for me. But be that as it may, using that scenario and policing for over 30 years, I would have been visiting persons in the area at different level, and have a one-on-one interaction with them. And I would often do it in my own clothes because, I like people to feel comfortable. I am of the view that when with this police uniform, it is good that people see the commander around and she's in her uniform and all of that. But the information that you would gather without the uniform, you wouldn't get it in the uniform. Because persons would not be, some of persons would not be so brave or they wouldn't want to come forward, because of fear that people might say, look, this one giving the commander some information. Because remember, they're in a community and they know. But when you go there, take a time for them to recognize me or recognize even you as a policeman if you're not known in the area. And that is one of the tactics that I use. Right? The other thing that I use, which is being frank, I assure them that whatever is said to me is dealt with at a confidential level, and I maintain that. And I would always maintain that once I remain in the force or elsewhere. Confidentiality is a key to success. So once the people have that confidence, they can call you and they would not hear, look, is John called the commander or John informed Mr. X? You would always build on that. So that is some of the things that I use.
Awesome. I want to say, publicly compliments to you on that. At least bring quite a level of normalcy back to the area. I do believe, not to belabor the point, but when there would have been the standoff and the blocking of roads, and you went out and the tactics that you employed, peacefully had the people stop blocking the roads, flow of traffic, business to be able to go on as usual. Yes, I hear what you're saying, that there's still some unease, but from what I'm getting, is this constant engaging of the community that is happening by you and your administration, correct?
Yes, I would, as I said, even after the road would have cleared, I would have visited, I'd talk, I'm back and forth. For instance, I recall one time the father of the deceased indicated to me that he wasn't getting on to key personnel. So I had to be visiting, I had to be communicating up and below. I had to be in the middle. Still, I'm in the middle and, assure them that justice, because we're all looking at justice be served, right? We're looking at justice be served in the right way. And that is the key for me. And that is what I keep assuring them, and that is what I want to see, that justice is served. Wherever it turn, justice prevailed.
Commander, as a policeman policewoman with years of service, we all are aware that it is never easy when any life is lost on either side. How do you treat with ranks if it is that they engage in any injurious acts on members of the public? And that's even before you got to your division.
Well, you reminded me of what I was speaking about yesterday. I recall at one time when I was in charge of Impact Base, we were getting a lot of crime in the vicinity of banks, right at Lombard Street there, Lombard and Cornell Street. And Mr. Josiah is now deceased, and Mr. Amsterdam, who is no longer a policeman, they were at the top, meaning the commander and the deputy. And I recall saying to them that we need to develop a way which would deal with these persons. But actually, there were a lot of robberies, and they were targeted persons, like most of the persons, the young people from the West Emeraro. And I recall I had a batch of young trainees, and I said I needed 5 of them. So the admin at that time agreed, and because I explained to them what I needed and what was the whole idea behind it. And they agreed, and from the first night I sent them out there, we were able to take 2 firearms off the road. And from there was a blossom. One of the guys, the same guy, Mr. Dorwin Eastman, who's now incarcerated, he was one of the guys I used. And I recall I have a young policeman, I'm not sure if he's still in the job. I know the last time I checked he was in Berbice. And I put him in a way where he would have been working as a boyfriend to a female, but he was Indian and she's Negro. So they would use that area, and one night there was a robbery and he discharged and he shot the guy in his leg. And I recall he panicked, but I would always tell him, regardless of whatever the circumstances, call me. And after he panicked, he called me, and I drove from where I'm living all the way to Georgetown. And I said, you relax, and I put him in my car, called the patrol. By the time I got there, we took the guy. The guy was shot in his legs, and we took him to the hospital, And what I'm saying this because you have to use different tactics. And I would always tell my police, try not to be confrontational. if you see the person is attacking, try to retreat. Because we're being trained that the weapon, when a weapon is drawn from the host, so it must be for a definite. It must always be your last resort. And in using it, you aim at the lower limbs. Or you look, for instance, use the hands, the feet to disable that person. And that at all time has to be a last resort. And that is what I preach to my ranks at all levels. And now at the level of the commander, I would say to them every day, try not to be confrontational. Even the traffic ranks. If the man commit himself, you have the license plate, you can take it. Even if the owner was not the driver, you have notice, you can send a notice to the owner of their vehicle, and they have the right and responsibility by law to produce a driver or who was the driver at that time. So I would tell them, try not to be confrontational. It's not an easy sight. You see, often people would look at it, but it is not a good sight, even whether it's a policeman is being shot and killed or whether it's a member of the public. It is not something nice.
And that makes me want to ask, so what about when it is that member of the public that is being confrontational, and maybe weapons are being used in cases where they're advancing? We've seen recently, well, not even recently, but for a while now, lots of posts on social media, particularly Facebook, of policemen and women are being attacked and beaten. And I'm sure, some of them, especially if they're in your region, they're listening and saying, yeah, come on, tell me, but me taking this, because next thing you know, they're going to injure me, or they're going to whip me. What would you say to them?
Well, remember, it's a human thing, you act when you're out there, we train it when you're out there. If it's a constable, you make a decision on behalf of the Commissioner of Police. And so it's a judgment call, but it's how do you defend it? Because nowhere there are rules in which if a person is attacking you, even if it's a member of the public as a businessman, you have a right to defend yourself. The law says you have a right to defend yourself and your property. And if a policeman is being attacked and he cannot do any other thing to defend himself and to discharge, well, so be it. But as I said, it must always be your last resort. The thing is, it's not the shooting, it's a justifiable shooting. What is justifiable? And this is where the big question comes. So even if you were attacked and you discharge, was it justifiable? And that is always the question. So whether the person attack you or whether you shoot, that is the position. So while you're out there and you got to think, should I allow this man to kill me? I have a family. Because oftentimes people don't believe that police came from family. They feel that police is some superman or superwoman. But we're human beings just like everybody else, right? And oftentimes people feel that, they expect you, you got this police, you got this big power. I mean, we know that some police feel that we get a big power. It is all over, but some of the members of the public feel that you have this big power. So whenever they say something to you, they expect you to react in such a way that the bravado is coming through, so the police is going to do something. So I would always tell my ranks, try not to be confrontational and maintain that. But if it's a situation that you cannot defend yourself, I know what I mean, because the law made it clear. If property you are hard to defend is attack and you are unable to safeguard it by any other means, you discharge. Right? So there are rules. It all comes back to the training. It all comes back to when you may fire. So it's not about the shooting, it's the justification behind the shooting. So if a policeman goes out there and says, yeah, Commander, tell me don't be confrontation, but this man attacked me and he feels that his life is threatened, there is no other mean and he discharged, how we give the justification, that is what is going to boil down to the end of the day.
That makes me want to ask you another question. I'm trying to put you in.
No, that's okay. That is okay. That's okay.
So we would have seen, and this happened in Regional Division 7. Our rank was attacked by a civilian who they stopped because they were speeding, discovered that that person was drunk driving, about to effective arrest. They were beaten up terribly. Ended up happening now when anyway, that person was charged, placed before the court. The court fined the person and mandated that what was going to happen is that they were supposed to walk with a placard saying, I will not assault the police. From the police station to the market square, I think for half of a day, whilst holding that placard. that policeman, when the person went out there to do that duty, went out there, and some of the discussion that people would have had in it is, yes, the policeman is wrong for what he did or whatsoever, and then some people said, but as a human being, because he felt that maybe the justice system didn't give him enough compensation for what he went through in effecting his job. Ticklish situation. Your take.
As a police, you see, that is the problem. You see, our life is always on the line. And this is what we got to understand. And I mean, the court would have ruled. The mere idea that the man was before the court, the mere idea that he paid a fine, and also he was given the opportunity or the punishment to walk with a placard, put him on the spot, right? Put him on the spot. Maybe if the policeman was of the view that justice was not served, right? Justice was not served. Then he had other options. He could have done, probably could have written a letter to the Commissioner of Police, which is the right thing to do according to the Act, and said, well, look, this would have occurred, and I need to seek a lawyer to take action against this man. I'm not satisfied with what was done and all that. Because if you look at it that side, let us put it on the other foot. This is a policeman who was beaten, but let us say it was a civilian who was beaten. And when the magistrate looked at it, he said, okay, well, I'm going to give the policeman a warning. Instead of causing him to lose his job, fine him or reprimand and discharge, or place him on a bond and have him apologize to the members of the public. How would a member of the public behave who is not trained? Remember, you are trained. One of the things, it don't happen now, as in my time, and maybe others who are older than I am. When you joined, you had a way we call instill discipline. Right? One of the key things was to take you out of civilian life into policing. That when you get out there, they will tell you all manner of things about your mother, about your father, about this, and I tell you nasty things. And they would do that so that when you get out there, the things that the members of the public would say to you should not affect you. So your life being transferred from civilian into police, certain things should not affect you. But remember, as I said, it's a human thing. And even though we think that we could transform, we don't always transform all the policemen and women. And that is the reality. You take them, they're there, let us say 20, 25 years, and you have them there trained for 6 months, and we can't transform them in 6 months. I recall at a meeting I told some key persons in the region when he spoke about corruption, I said, I'm here 4 months. And what would have happened in 2 years and even before 2 years, don't expect me to change it in 4 months. Everything takes time. Because people expect that you were there and all these things was happening before you got there, but then you're a superwoman, you're going to... It don't happen like that. For instance, I need X to remove, I need Y, I need Z. Yes, they can be removed, but are we going to remove them from the station and abandon the stations? If you understand me. So, because of your training, you always have to think. And you can't think like the member of the public because the magistrate would have said, a fine and walk with this placard and look as a police. I gotta go. No, that is not right. And I don't think the police acted professional. That is my take on it. Mm-hmm. Because as I said, put it on the other side.
You think he acted as a human? He allowed his human
himself,
side.
Right, his human side to take the control of him. Because if you put the shoes on the other foot, oftentimes things happen. I know people get beat up and all of that. Police beat up people and all of that. And the people say, look, we don't want any story. And you're happy because you don't want to go before the court or lose your job. So we should not be looking at it, in that sense. But maybe experience, and as I said, maybe he's still in the civilian world. He hasn't been transformed to the police life. Because once he's transformed, he won't have that reaction. Or it would have been a lesson for him to be more wise.
But you see, I asked that because, and again, look, just recently, over the weekend in the Berbice area, and we've been having it on the East Coast and what's not, where civilians are very volatile in their attacks on policemen and women. And so maybe, I don't know if it happens in your region, if it ever happened, where a policeman was attacked and beaten in the effecting of their job. But what would you say to those civilians who may be thinking of that? The police is here to execute his or her duty, and they pick up a piece of wood and hit or do or what's not. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say that is totally unacceptable. It should not happen. They should realize that the police are there to serve and protect, and the police will not come to effect an arrest unless a report is made. Remember that okay, you might be the defendant now or the suspect, but on another occasion you might be the victim or the virtual complainant. So if the police respond to you now when you're the suspect, you should cooperate with the police. Last week I had a situation where a report was made where a young man assaulted 3 young men in the same Dartmouth area. So the young man came first, made a report that he was assaulted by the 3. And while the reported to me were in the process of taking a statement, he said, I don't want to give any statement. I know what I would do. So he went back to the village, armed himself with a cutlass, and went to attack the 3 young men. He went as far as to go to the school of one of the young men. The HM called the father of one of the child, accompanied the child, and saw actually what was happening, and said, what is your problem? You really want a story? And when they told me, I told them, obviously you got to go to Dartmouth because that they have this fear with some of them because of what transpired, that nobody wants to go to Dartmouth. So I said, you got to go, use wisdom. And Sergeant was in charge of the patrol who, I feel comfortable he could handle himself. And he reported as he got there what happened. When he got there, the guy saw the police, some persons came around, and the man ran and he retreated, as I would always say to them. He got the information where he was hiding out. He said, I'm going to pass there. When he got there, the guy wasn't there. And he returned to the station. He said he went to the mother. I said, leave a message and let the mother know that she should bring our son to the police station. He said, fine. So the mother behaved real bad based on what I learned. And she came to the station. And the sergeant called me and said, the mother's here with the young man. I said, bring them to my office. And I asked him in presence from the police. For instance, you came first and made a report, and you decided you wanted to take the law in your own hand and retaliate. This is 2 civilians we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Why did you run from the police? Bear in mind that the other side parents now are there and they're with them, and they're waiting to see what the police is going to do. So he gave me a story. He hadn't on no shirt. This is happening, that is happening. I said, okay. By the time I sent them back to the inquiries, the guy went out and he told the sergeant that he called him on and said, let us go. And he told the sergeant to come on. He said he should come back the next day. So I'm waiting now, and then the sergeant said the guy gone. So I said, what nonsense? How the guy gone? He said, Mom, the guy gone. I said, okay, don't fight it. We know where he lives. You're going to go back now again to Dartmouth and let the mother bring the son. In the meantime, while that was happening, we got some information that this guy, I'd already got the information from him that he really don't be in the region. He lives there, but he works in Buxton at some Chinese place. And he said he would come up and some. But by the time he left, I got information. He committed some offense there and ran back in the village. And by the time he got back there, we had his picture taken, sent, and 2 areas wanted him. So we were able to deal with it. So I said, okay, we prepare him for court for this 3, and now the others would have him. I see that easy as it is, it happens all the time. So sometimes you got to use a lot of wisdom. Right? You have to use a lot of wisdom in getting things done. You got to use a lot of wisdom. A lot of police don't want to go to Dartmouth, you're getting reports, complaints. Nobody wants to go to Dartmouth because of fear. But we still have to do what we have to do. We still have to do what we have to do. So, coming back to the issue there, is that wisdom, it always calls for wisdom and how we react. Sometimes things can get ugly, but then we have to exercise a lot of self-control. And I'm telling from my personal experience as a police, I've had a lot of situations where I had to exercise self-control. And when I tell you, I really had to exercise self-control. I recall one time as a young policewoman, I was stationed in Linden. And there was this guy that we wanted for 2 murders, at least in Georgetown. And I got the information. I was in charge of wisdom. The informant gave me the information. I gave it to the commander who was then, he's now deceased, Mr. Jamir. And when I gave him the information, Mr. Jamir used his best cop, who now resides in the States, passed on that information to him because we had everything. Lo and behold, I gave the information, let us say about 11 o'clock the day. And by the night, the informant had a visit to our home. I didn't say who the informant was. I never told him anything, but the best detective, trying to be a good boy, try and use his channel. Fortunately or unfortunately, one of the persons that he used was the confidant, the informant's sister, the informant now is deceased, her sister. And she said, where you got the information from? And he called my name. And he said, I told the commando. Right? The man now realizing that this girl and I are friends, he said it gotta be she. He found himself in her home. The next morning I'm at the basement and she's there riding with a bicycle, throwing a bicycle up the stair. And she said, Denise, who you tell what I told you? And I said, what happened? She said, the man been in my house last night. That was no one late. The guy found his way to the village where I was living. So he told her, look, I know she live, I know she husband is work, I know how much children she get, I know the house, and describe everything. And I would say to my ranks, if they were in my position, they would have left. I didn't even have 5 years service. You know, and that is one of the things as a policeman or woman, your life is always at stake. It's always in danger. Always. And, you know, oftentimes things happen, you know, advantage are being taken on police, men and women, you know, all because the life in which we choose or the job we choose to live by service and protection. I'm not saying that we are all perfect. None of us are perfect. But sometimes the members of the public often overreact. You know, a little thing that we can sort out, they try to get it way out of control. And others, the bystanders, instead of, as we would say, instead of out, they would throw gasoline in the fire. You know?
Which is something that we see happening a lot. Do you find it in your region too? Especially police are going to effect an arrest. And funny enough, this is when the crowd is there and they're egging on or they're in the way seeking to impede the police effecting that arrest sometimes, which would lead to a person escaping.
Yes. Yes, but I don't have that much in my region. I had another situation when I was at Brick Dam as a young policewoman where coconut was thrown at my superiors in Starbuck Market. We went to effect an arrest and the vendors started pelting coconuts from left, right and center. You know, and it's the same situation. They feel that we should not effect the arrest. Instead of advising the person to go with the police to the police station, you know, they try to get things out of control. Some persons lack of knowledge. Some people just feel that, you know, so it is a fact that some people definitely don't like police. There's no if and but about it. Some people, you don't have to do them anything. That is the way some people behave. They definitely do not like the police for whatever reason. Maybe bad experience, maybe, you know, different thing. But some people, it doesn't matter how you try to play with them, they always see it in a negative way. Whereas I have persons who are on the negative side, but when you go to them, they would say, okay, yes, okay, let's try this or let's try it. But some people, you can preach all day and all night, same reaction. But as I said, we always have to be the tactful persons. We always have to think. We have to think and think and think and think all the time. And as I said, it's a spontaneous something. You have to think. You know, people react differently, and we are all human beings. But I would always say to members of the public, just allow the police to do what they have to do. Last week I had another situation where we dealing with a matter, a robbery. The last robbery we had where the businessman was shot. The rank had some information and they called me and they responded. The advice was given, they should not go because of the seriousness of it and the area. Don't go with the police vehicle. Right? We had information, the suspect, the person was connected to the suspect based on the information. And the man went on. But they didn't say anything. There was a complaint when the police reacted. The police reacted because they saw this man allegedly threw something. And they were members of the public who was playing with this man. They said, what is it that you threw there? Cooperate with the police, and he was going on. But when the mother came, she did not say that. So she spoke, she told me a story. She spoke all night. And when I got on to the police and he began to say certain things, as he speak, I was questioning her. Then she started admitting yes. I said, why didn't you, if you feel that the police would have hurt your son, why didn't you not accompany your son to the police station? The bottom line was she didn't know where her son gone. The police beat him up, he foot break, he hand break, all manner of thing happened. And I said, okay, well, the aunt was there. If you got any information where this child may be or whatever, I need to know. Don't go to the station, bring this child to me. The next morning, we got information that the guy went into the place at night and went away with a bar, which they denied from neighbors. However, after playing with them, the guy turned up the night. He turned up, right? They are turned up. When he turned up, normal police thing, he must be seen and examined, because if the police beat him, he got to be seen and examined. It's a complaint for the police, seen and medically examined, which was done. And lo and behold, well, we got to keep him in custody. He wasn't admitted. He was placed in custody, and was another story started. She wanted to know why he was placed in custody. But I said, if we investigate, this is a case we investigate, a man was shot, he almost lost his life. So we have to do our part too. While we're investigating the report that you made or the allegation against the police or the complaint, we still have to investigate the crime.
That
she
he
didn't
is
want that
alleged to have committed.
She didn't want that. Right? She wanted just the police. And had I known that he would have been in the lockup, I wouldn't have sent him. Now, the other thing, she was making complaint against a specific station. So I said he should not be placed in custody. Bring him to a next station. It was a problem again. So the distance, I said, if you're making complaint against the police at that station, how can I put him there? I got to move him. It was another problem again. You see what happens? Mm-hmm. So there's some of the things that you face, but then, as I said, you have to use wisdom, right? You have to use wisdom.
Speaking about that, it means that you've got a tall order also in your region to be able to work on some of either your community policing groups and the collaborations with members of the public to be able to build your better relations with members of the public, and not just better relations with members of the public, but to be able to help them to get the eyes and ears open to assist you in your work. As you would have mentioned earlier, it was civilians who identified and detained the perps, and then called the suspects, and then called you into it. What are some of these other initiatives that you're working with members of the public in terms of building those relationships?
Well, we have, it's good that you spoke about the community policing, because they are very helpful, specifically in the charity area, where we have the charity back street. That is an area of concern too for me. And as recent as last night, we had some arrests there, and they were members of the community policing group in that area, who was, along with one police rank, but arrested those persons. So, as I said again, you have to keep on it. You have to keep talking. You have to keep mobilizing. You have to keep visiting. For me, I would visit the various business entities. I would speak to people at different levels. Once they call me, I would give them a number. It doesn't matter what hour of the night. I'm gonna miss a call, and I see a call again. I'm gonna say, this person trying to make contact with me, and I would return the call. And as we speak, I have a lot of persons who would call me directly, because I said of the confidentiality. For me, they're a little bit more comfortable that they can speak to me. Some police, yes, they would speak to, but not all of them. And I would use that approach, because that is the approach I have to use. I would say to them, in the case of X, call me directly. I don't allow them to get to certain police. It's not that they can, but I'm using my ears and my eyes too. So, and I find that is working a lot. The regional chair and I have a very good relationship, the vice chair, the REO. So anything they would call me. For instance, we had another situation where the regional chair had some information about a young man in the region. She called me. I sent the police, were able to apprehend him. He was charged. We have that kind of relationship. So sometimes police may call her, or they call me. We have that relationship going. Yes.
Awesome. Your region, Commander, and as a matter of fact, for those of you who are, if you join us late, we are with woman Superintendent Denise Griffith, who is the Commander of Regional Division 2 here on Police and You. Your region has had its fair share of road fatalities and accidents, many due to speeding, and sometimes even after the autopsies being done, you discover drinking. Now, with what would have happened, and I think the last few months we've not had that much. The fact that we've got it's Road Safety Month now that we're in, under the theme Arrive Alive, Don't Drink and Drive. What kind of measures have you put in place to be able to minimize traffic-related offenses and incidents or accidents?
Right, we have ongoing campaigns. We have lecture to drivers, all the road users, minibus, cars, lecture to schools. We've had stop, like a spot stop. For instance, you might just stop a car and like a spot check. For instance, yesterday we decided we would use this siren because we were there, and from observation, a lot of persons don't give heed to the siren. The ambulance was heading from Charity to Supernam. There was a car as well as a canter, and they're speeding. They're passing on Regina Station, and the ambulance siren is on, and they would not stop. So right away we recognize that there is need for us to do some of that. You know, siren, look at the reaction, you know. So as I said, we continue. We had it all the time, but not, now that we're in road safety month, it's more frequent. You know, every area, we had, even the regional chair was out at one time. Apart from the COVID scenario, there were lectures by the police as well as the regional chairman in relation to the same drivers of minibus and cars. One of the things we discovered was that most of the time when the accident would have occurred, it would have been in the curfew period. You know, when the curfew was at 9:30, so persons after that would be on the road, because as you know, the road is very lonely. I don't know if you ever traveled that area.
Yes, I have.
A lot
if
of
anyone
places
who,
don't
yes,
have
definitely.
road lights, and there's some dangerous turn. So most time we find accidents will occur at certain specific areas. So the drive is continuous in terms of lectures. We can't stop speaking at different forum, whether it's school, you know, the curb drill, road users, you know, we can't stop. We have to be continuous. So that is what we're using. We had our church service 2 Mondays ago, and same thing, you know, we asking persons to use the road with care, you know, speeding and the use of alcohol. There's a lot of that would have caused the accidents that we would have, my observation. So as you rightfully said, there's a vast decrease, and we can't stop. We have to continue. So when we end the road safety month, we still have to continue, because Essequibo for me is accident prone. That's how I see it. Most of the offenses is accidents. I could remember piece of time, I'm like, you know, accidents. And when you look at it, it's the same thing. People don't give ear to certain things. For instance, I had a situation with my driver. He's coming from Supernam, coming back to Charity and Regina. So you have the speedboat. He's coming from the speedboat area, and you have the big boat. There's a man coming out of that road there and hit him on this one and said the driver was wrong. He says no. When he's supposed to be stopping, he's coming into the access, right? And this one, the problem, everybody feel that they should be driving at the same time. Even though you may be on the straight, something you still have to tone it down. You know, you got to tone it, because if you see this man is aggressive, still tone it down. And this is one thing we're trying to put into persons. You know, it doesn't matter that there's not like a right away for me. There's nothing like right away. Yeah, you're on the access, yes, but you got to use a lot of observation. And that is what the ranks have been doing. They've been working, I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, late morning. We had bicycle campaign, because we found that we had a lot of bicycles, you know, all set at the station, you know, in the night, just spontaneous campaigns. Get the cycles out of the road, because people use the cycle with no lights.
And that creates
it too.
problems and accidents. Penultimately, because and this is an interesting conversation, I certainly hope that we will be able to continue another time. But let me just ask, do you see any correlation? We're in the pandemic still. COVID time, and one of the things that is happening, as much as the police are trying to have enforcements happen, you've got what is known as, it's commonly referred to as the private zest, which is these secret parties. Yeah. In your region, you've got any reports of that? And
yes.
If it is, how do you treat with them?
A little before I got out here tonight, I got well, as I said, we were in this group, so once somebody see a post or something is put up somewhere, they would flash it and they would send it. So on the 4th of December, there's an event Right, our event is scheduled to be held, but the person would maybe they might, if they were listening, they would hear now that I'm aware of it. And so what we do, we nip it in the bud. So I already indicated Thursday I would send for the person, the promoter. Once it get early to me, we send for the promoter and let them understand that they cannot keep these events because we are not given permission for these events. If they think they need an event to be held because of whatever reason, if it's costing or whatever, they have to go to the COVID task force. An application has to be made. They can't come to me as a commando. I can't give them no permission. I have not been doing that since I was in the region. Since I'm there, I haven't been giving any, and I maintain the same thing. So they would have to apply to the COVID task force. I would advise them, and look, you need to apply. And if the person said, okay, yes, based on their explanation, they would say, well, how many persons? They would say whatever time. And then that application would come to me. So once we get the information, yes, well, a few of them slipped us, because as I said, the situation there, nobody wants to go to Dartmouth. And something like, something, Dartmouth had a party. For instance, a woman called me and said, Dartmouth had a party, and her daughter-in-law went there, and collected her grandchild, went to it, so she was leaving for Georgetown with the child, but she went to the party, some barbecue set up at Dartmouth. She was seen there, never got to Georgetown, she never reached. And she was coming to ask me what can happen with the child, in the interest of the child. Excuse me. So I said, the mere idea that you knew nothing happened to this woman is that she's just having fun. When she was seen at Dartmouth, one of the relatives told the police, look, this lady left to go to Georgetown. So she said, no, I'm going home. Instead of going home, she went to another village, which is Henrietta. So I said, well, that is the problem. The woman hasn't committed an offense. It's her child. But I share your concern that you need a child to get into school. There's nothing the police could do. So what you need to do, get into the welfare. She said she did that. Well, I said, we got to wait. And so she went to a secret barbecue. But it was an afterboard for us, excuse me. I never knew until yesterday. A few slipped out, but once it gets our knowledge, we would stop it. Once we know before, we'd call them in and advise them this is not permitted. Approval is not being granted. And even if you feel that you need an approval, then this is the correct channel. And it's not only Miss Griffith, the regional chairman, the vice chair, the whole entire task force group. They normally do the same thing. They would get the information to me, and I would send for the persons.
Okay. In conclusion, Commander, what advice would you give to both your ranks? I know you give a lot earlier, and to the residents in your region, particularly as we're heading into this Christmas season.
Yeah.
And maybe even if you want to say, early Christmas greetings too. But what advice to both citizens as well as the ranks?
2 weeks ago, I would have launched the Christmas season outline to a few business persons attended. And some of the things we look at is key areas for us in terms of the police. Let me address the first, that they have to be vigilant at all times. We have key points that we need to be visited, vulnerable points that we need to be visited. They have to be on the lookout, any suspicious, anybody you see suspicious, or you think, because as we give a small, everybody knows somebody in a village, you would identify this person as a stranger. This woman is not really from here. You need to look up because most of the ranks lives in Essequibo. They're there a long time. Some are not from the region, but they got into the region, got married and started a family there. And by some born and grew, as you said, born, bred and fed there. So the idea is we also remain vigilant. The idea is for us to be each other's keeper. Our ears always has to be on the ground. We can't allow anything to slip. And, maintain a presence. The police have to maintain a presence at all times. So we have foot patrols, we have motorcycle patrols, we have vehicle patrols, continuous. For the business sector, I would have advised them, same thing, observe the persons. You might see somebody coming into the store, use a lot of observation. If you see somebody looking suspicious, you can call us. Call me, wherever you feel. If you don't feel comfortable, call me. I can't get on to me, you can call the regional chairman, the vice, and then we can take it from there. The other thing, we don't have so much of what we call in Georgetown pickpockets there. I haven't discovered that there. We have like mostly robberies, and so they have to be vigilant. The other thing, a lot of business people have, they haven't, maybe for their own personal reason, place security cameras. So, the advice they should, place the cameras at certain points. Keep being vigilant. Keep vigilant. I remember a businessman told me he had a staff there stole some money. And he said he didn't want to even believe that his staff would have stolen so much money. So you even got to look sometimes at your staff. Because you can have outside and the inside. For instance, the robbery that we had, none of the three guys were from Essequibo. None of the three. Right? So it means that they had to stop somewhere in Essequibo. They had to get a place, and they weren't stopping at any hotel. So it means that persons come from out of the region into the region. The other thing I advise the police, because we have the boat, so you'll be more vigilant. When you see the boat comes, whether it's a speedboat or the big boat, you need to focus there. Observe the unusual. You might have a man riding a motorbike coming to your region, a car. Know the unusual. Because it's easy to pick up. Once you're vigilant, you can pick it up. And it's the same thing for the business sector. Be vigilant. If if you see something that is unusual for you, you can call somebody. You can call the regional chair, you can call the vice, you can call anybody you feel in authority that you can call, or the commander, and we'll work together, because we're all working together. The regional chair, we're all on board. We want to have a safe holiday for those who are celebrating the Christmas or the festive season, and we want things to run smoothly. So our eyes are all out.
And we want to wish you an easy Christmas, so to speak, in Regional Division 2 also, Commander. It's been a pleasure speaking with you tonight in Policing You.
It's been a pleasure too for me.
And do remember, the invitation is open for you to return to the program.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and of course, this is where we're going to put a wrap on things. So tonight you've been listening to and watching the Regional Commander of Regional Division number 2, who is Woman Superintendent Denise Griffith, who was on tonight's program, and we certainly hope that you did enjoy. Thanks for joining us on behalf of Simeon Brown on the stream, on behalf of Constable George on the cameras, and as well as